laners, random matchup, still win the lanes without any jungle assistance, and Karthus can just free farm for the whole game and then race his arms.
Is that just because their individual talent is that strong that they just win unwinnable matchups, they skill check matchups?
Yeah, I think it is.
Copy, what do you make of the PerkZ in the bottom lane, and especially the PerkZ Mykix bot lane, which looks really good?
Well, I think PerkZ is not bad at all, considering he's pretty new to the role. Yeah, that's all we've been.
Yeah, there we go. The fear is instilled in Exile from PerkZ Zoe.
But yeah, I think PerkZ is like, he already has an edge over other players because AD or bot lane is a very versatile role. And just because he can play all of these other mages or whatever champs, it's really good for him.
I'd love to know your guys' priority on the Akali when something like the Aurelia is open. You know, globally we've seen the Aurelia kind of the higher priority pick than the Akali, because it feels like when you have the likes of Galio and Lissandra still available that you can find certain counter options. Do you think this is simply just that G2 play the Akali better, or do you actually weight her kind of in the scheme of things that much better than Aurelia?
In pure 1v1, Akali should win against Aurelia. Maybe Aurelia comes online a bit faster in terms of team fighting. So if you are able to flex Akali top and mid, which is obviously the case with Caps and Wunder, I think it's still a really strong pick, but it doesn't work all the time in all the team comps. So first pick is still a risk, but I think again that's a champion that relies a lot on the talent of the players.
So again, this is just G2 just having that confidence to say that we can grab this and also even dissuade you from picking up the Aurelia.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is a Draven coming out for, I'm going to say PerkZ, of course you never know, with this lineup. And also a lot of very contested picks that are able to make it through the draft with the Galio and the Rakan for Excel.
And we've seen the Draven Morgana just thrash kids in the LCK. So, Kabi, can you run me through this matchup of just how devastating it can be?
So basically, when you see Rakan blind pick, there's certain counter picks. They go for the Xayah as well. But Morgana is really good into it because of the Black Shield, obviously. And if you have a strong AD carried together with it, you can just always out-trade the enemy AD. So in this matchup, G2 should have push for most of the game and always be able to win.
Do you think there are any windows that Xayah Rakan can try to abuse Draven Morgana, or what levels can this bot lane try to fight against PerkZ and Mickey?
I think the best chance is to either level 1 if they're trolling, but they probably won't. But otherwise they wait for level 6 and try to surprise them with Rakan engage. I think that's the only window you should go for.
If we're looking from a gameplay or a full game perspective from the side of Excel or anyone going up against G2 Esports, do you just try and prioritize all the good picks you can get for yourself and try not to get too much caught up in the mind games of where everything's gonna go?
That's what they are doing, even if it's usually more of a blue side draft. It's interesting that even on blue side, G2 are counter-picking most lanes. I mean, Galio is supposed to be a counter-pick against Akali, but Akali will most likely go top here.
Yep.
Here, G2 already have a hard-winning matchup on bot lane. It feels like Excel, they just want comfort, be able to at least have a good win condition around team fighting. The question is, will they ever be able to team fight if they are just too behind in lane, or just they are getting 1v1 to death?
Yeah, we do see that the Karthus is still on the table, so Jankos is probably thinking, okay, I can always go to that if I want to. Frost, is this something we think he'll just keep going to if it's open? Because why the hell not?
I mean, I think it depends on his lane matchups, but G2 have felt that, again, because their players are so strong, that they're going to have the lane safety that they can grab the Karthus. What's curious for me is if this is going to be a Sion pickup here, if they're actually going to grab their jungle matchup. I feel like they could leave red side for the counter jungle matchup to see if they get the stronger one. And if you pick the Sion, then there's not a lot of kill pressure for Akali, but I don't know if Expect really feels comfortable, or maybe if you think the Akali is going top, that he could try to find something like, I don't know, anything to pull it out.
It is a bit of a grudge match also.
Felt like the Sion.
Expect is playing versus his old team, so maybe he'll try and save the counter pick. Oh, there we go. It is Sion. Exciting.
Or you see Akali and you're just like, Galio Sion, she can't kill us, right?
The thing is, Akali can have the prior against Sion,
yes.
But it will be hard for her to kill him. But at some point, she will just have the pressure on side too. So both lanes are fine for Akali, but I would say she should be top, and maybe a Corki, for example, against Galio could be interesting.
So I feel like a lot of fans at this point will be asking why G2 didn't go for the Karthus. Yeah. Can you maybe walk through some of the mind games here, as I say that?
I mean, it would be a Karthus mid or top, but the problem with Karthus is that here, if you get hard engaged super fast by Rakan, if you blow up instantly, you can still have your ult, but it's not the same impact because you are not really positioned in the enemy team. So it's a bit hard.
I did see, I was watching Caps' stream, and he did get Sejuani mid, and he was doing really, really well with it. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. Copy, you're nodding your head.
I think so, because I got the pleasure to experience it in my solo stream. So I think it's a pick they actually play mid and top, and Mickey plays at support as well, but
Yeah, support as well.
it's probably going mid.
Oh, fantastic. I'd be very happy if I got that prediction correct. But then there we see the Zillion Hover, of course. That would be no surprise from the side of KaSing. Or there we go for the Nocturne.
I think I can hear Vedius from here.
Yeah, there we go.
So looking at these compositions, if you had to kind of put like a name or a play style to both the G2 and the Excel comp, what would you pick?
Where is that Sejuani going,
It's
man?
a pure laning phase, a snowball comp on the G2 side with 1-3-1 winning condition, while just Excel want to team fight super hard engage with Rakan and Nocturne, and punish side lane with Nocturne. Nocturne is a good answer to their side laners, so he can go and punish especially Wunder. But can they reach there with, I would say, 2, maybe 3 winning lane? I'm not an expert on the Sejuani against Galio matchup. I don't know.
Nobody is. And they seem to have swapped back for now, so it would be the Wunder on Sejuani. Interesting team compositions, to say the least. Again, coming out of G2, some interesting
summoner
choices.
spells.
No, it's because of the tournament thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
perfect.
There we go. All right, so we've seen the drafts. Kobe, you had G2 pegged as the winner before this. What do you think after seeing the drafts?
I mean, I think Excel has some chances with their comp if they get some good Rakan engages, but I'm pretty sure G2 takes this one.
If it wasn't G2, like let's say the two teams are of completely equal skill or just completely two different teams, which composition do you guys actually favor?
I think it all depends on the play style of the team. Even no matter the skill, like there is a team that really wants to play for lane and snowball and 1-3-1, which is maybe harder to execute in the mid game but easier in the early game. And the other one who just wants, with good coordination, to force team fights. So it really depends on the style of the teams, and I wouldn't say which one I would prefer for my team, but
No. Well, I do have a note before we continue. After exploring issues which resulted in remade champion select last week, the cause of the bug was determined and is in the process of being patched. Now, we have completed picks and bans on a stable test server, and picks and bans are now being transferred onto the competitive server, and the game will play on as normal. This should just be temporary, so we'll just have a couple of more minutes before we get into game. Now, when we look at it, you know, even picks and bans, no picks and bans, whatever the picks would be for G2, Frost, this is one of those games where you think certainly G2 is not going to drop the ball because they look absolutely on form.
Yeah, but I also feel like G2 are continuing to kind of not push their lucks, but kind of see how far they can flex on a lot of different teams.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is I feel like G2 haven't been challenged on a macro level. They haven't really had to think strategically about the game because they've just been brute forcing. If you think in like traditional sports, you know, sometimes you're just bigger, faster, stronger than the other team, and G2 are kind of like the quintessential analogy of that for esports. They're just better players, and it feels like the majority of the LEC.
Does seem like that at this point in time. So, well, poor Excel, I would say. But on the other hand, I mean, Excel, they went 1-1 in the first week, and of course, it's not easy for them going up against G2 Esports, but this is a project that could develop and it has some promise, Juke. Where do you see them ending up?
Where do I see them ending? It's a bit tough to say now. I think maybe they will be strong in the summer. They will ramp up during the spring split. Maybe they will be already in playoff by the end of the spring split, but I doubt it. I think they have some pretty good players. I think a player like Caedrel, for example, is a bit overlooked, even if he can overcome a bit of stage issues. For example, I think he's a really good jungler. Yeah, I think they have the potential, but they will need a bit of time.
It will take a bit of time, and it would be fantastic for Excel if they would be able to beat out G2 Esports, but G2 Esports have their eyes on that title and are on course. Let's see what happens and head over to our casters.
Thank you very much, Shucks. Hello, everybody. I'm Trevor QuickShot Henry, bringing you the action for the rest of the day with Andrew Vedius Day. We can only apologize about the slow jump into game. As Shucks already mentioned, that bug is being patched out. But for now, we're going to chat a little bit more. Do you know what I love about this draft?
Tell me.
Earlier today, I got flexucated by Flexius, and we have a Sejuani top. How on earth is that going to work?
So, I had the opportunity to talk to Wunder a little bit before coming into the season, ask him some questions like, is Sejuani top really a thing? Is it something I should prepare for? And he was like, his words were, and I quote, I think it can be played top, but G2 has so many champions, I don't know if I can fit it into my pool, right?
So it took 3 games for it to come out,
Literally
right?
3 games. I was like, damn you, Wunder. But the cool thing about Sejuani is she did have quite a few changes, I'm going to say, on 9.1, where she kind of gained more damage and she lost a little bit of crowd control. Some considered it a buff, some considered it a nerf, but considering the fact that she's really high on the priority list in terms of jungle, I would consider it a very big buff. But part of that means that she's now played in other lanes because you build a little bit of AP on her, her scaling is really good, she has a lot more burst damage than I think a lot of people give credit for, and she also does surprisingly well against tanks because of the amount of damage that she can chunk out against high HP targets.
Well, Mecha Zero Sion, as well as Exile playing Galio, 2 tanks for Wunder Sejuani to match up into. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for bearing with us. We are loading onto the Rift for XL taking on G2. And what a matchup. Now, the other story that I have to look at is how well is PerkZ going to pilot Draven? There is no champion that more defines the role than Draven to AD carry. He is the Chad AD carry of the bot lane.
It's true.
And I'm excited to see how well PerkZ can, you know, manage his spinning axis, can step up. We saw what he can do on Xayah, and this might silence a lot of critics based on how well he plays Draven.
I agree. I think by going for a very strong bot lane, it does suggest that G2 will be looking to play around the bot side of the map early on in the game. But PerkZ right now, he could get collapsed on. Fortunately, he does have Mykix. But look at this, 5 members from Exile in the bottom side of the map.
Oh, PerkZ is getting baited! Look at Excel. They may be able to get at least a couple flashes, 1 and 2. And that bottom lane that was hoping to play aggressive now has to put their tail between their legs.
Now, you gotta criticize G2's bot lane there. Moving into the river this early on, I think they just wanted to get a bit of vision. They wanted to maybe invade on the enemy blue, get a bit of chip damage down. But I think that what they weren't expecting was expect coming into the bottom brush. So he was able to move with KaSing behind the enemy bot lane and set up a nice trap, resulting in a flashless now duo for G2.
Okay, so PerkZ and Mickey coming up against Xayah and Rakan. Actually, it's 2 lanes that are both particularly strong as far as duos are concerned. So let's see who's going to land the CC and get an advantage. Obviously, flashless makes it even scarier for Mickey and PerkZ.
But what we heard from the analyst desk was that what Kobe was saying is that you can't really go aggressive against this duo very early on. You kind of have to wait for that level 6 mark before you can look for an opportunity, and you're going to have to rely on the Nocturne being involved there as well. But no flashes mean that PerkZ and Mickey always have to play on the defensive because they're afraid of a potential jungle gank. And one thing you will notice, if you guys look at your minimap, you'll see that there are 2 wards that have been placed in the entrance to G2's jungle, and that's because Exile are expecting to lose control of the bottom side of the map. They're expecting Caedrel to move in, try and set up an invade, and they want to know exactly what Caedrel is up to. But now, because they have information that he hasn't walked into the enemy jungle, even though they're flashless, it gives them the confidence to play aggressively, and this is just a very important lesson in why wards are important.
Yeah, and of course, I want to see what the jungler's decision-making is. As you mentioned, Caedrel has gone up into his side, whereas Jankos now moving down towards that red buff. Quick pop-up of his damage percentage from the 2 Karthus games last week. Jankos had a 22 KDA on Karthus. He went 10, 1, and 12. He was responsible for 23% of his team's damage because he just pressed R and killed people. Very different role now on the Olaf, but to be quite frank, he has plenty of opportunities to deal a ton of damage.
It's like is his comeuppance, right? Like, he was forced onto Braum multiple times last year. He was begging the balance team to remove funneling so he can move away, and now he's happy again. He gets to play a high damage dealing jungler. He doesn't even have to gank his lanes, and every time they ask for a gank, he's like, no, sorry, Karthus is not good at ganking. What do you want from me, guys? I can't do anything.
I think you actually said something that really struck a chord. On the picks and bans at the analyst desk, Duke, strategic coach for Splice, mentioned that G2 Esports can sometimes pick these lanes that just win, regardless of if they should or shouldn't because of their player skill. And Jankos is unlocked, he's freed, you know, to make decisions as and where he wants to. We saw that last week with his Karthus. This time around, he snuck into the bottom lane. Remember those wards that Vedius was pointing out earlier? Gives them information. They know Caedrel was nowhere nearby. He's also just cleared out his jungle. And obviously with Exile not making any sort of positional moves for any early ganks, it is just a small gold lead by G2 farming themselves up. With the exception of a CS advantage to capture the mid lane, it's even down bottom. and it's even in top. So what do you make so far of Wunder versus Expect? And now the fact that Sejuani has already picked up a shop and teleported to lane.
Yeah, we should definitely use this opportunity, Trevor, to talk a little bit about the Sejuani, because people at home may not be familiar with the champion. You will notice that Wunder is running the Aftershock. He also has on his secondary tree the Inspiration. This is something a lot of top lane tanks like to run to grab that extra materializer. Ooh, but we don't have time for that because Jankos is ganking.
Well, of course, they want to tell stories, and Jankos wants to kill people. Goes out the undertows and gonna get the flash from Expect. They'll be happy with that. Wait a few more minutes, rinse, repeat, and look for the kill. Exile with a very good Justice Punch trade into the Winds of War means Caps lose 50% of HP.
So that was a really good gank for Jankos because Expected just used his teleport back into lane, which means that he now loses an entire wave and he's a level down. So you can see how that farm discrepancy is now snowballed in favor of Wunder. So even though we expected G2 to play on the bot side, it was Jankos who made an appearance, made sure that his bot lane was safe while they were pushing, and then immediately he moves back up towards the top side of his jungle where all the monsters have respawned and looks for a play. But now it's Excel's turn to be the proactive team.
And exactly like you talked about earlier, Vedius, Excel with their composition looking to get some sort of control in the bottom half of the map. They get an invade with Exile, they put a couple wards down inside G2's jungle, and Exile were looking for an opportunity, but with no ultimates yet for Caedrel or Exile, Excel Esports not looking for any sort of dives just yet.
But I'm taking the mic back, QuickShot.
Go for it.
Jankos ruined my breakdown of Sejuani top. So for those at
Scumbag.
home, it is full tank Sejuani, is what it looks like. However, the important thing to know is he has started with a Doran's Ring and the name that I forget all the time, the Dark Seal. The Dark Seal.
Dark Seal, there you go.
So it synergizes nicely with the Corrupting Potions. You get a little bit more sustain. It gives you ability power, which means that you trade a little bit more effectively in lane, but then he'll transition into that full tank role. And what you'll see as the game progresses, he will be the primary engage tool, but also when he's in a side lane against one of these tanks, he should actually be able to win out in those 1v1s thanks to the E that does a lot of damage to these high health targets.
What do you think of the G2 team composition? Because Olaf, Sejuani top, Draven bot, Akali mid, I've not seen this comp, let me say, anywhere, right? So, you know, as a 5-man unit, and as we're 6 minutes into the game, how do you see this comp not only playing through the rest of the laning phase, but also scaling into the mid-lane game?
So, the goal of G2's comp is very much to try and utilize the strength of their duo to snowball into a strong mid game, which they then have a lot of engage to follow up, right? In the late game, they kind of taper off. Draven gets very difficult to play against this many tanks and this much dive with Rakan and a Nocturne. So G2's composition is very much about early to mid game snowballing. And with Caps on Akali, they're confident that he can win out in his 1v1, so they've just left him to his own devices and they're warding for him, making sure that he's safe. Whereas Jankos is investing all of his time into ganking for top lane and bot lane. And remember, Expect flashed earlier, so he's making a return gank top side.
All right, Caedrel is ready. Paranoia's up as well. Let's see Wunder. Glacial Prison needs to be thrown out. Now Caedrel's going to get spotted. Vision denial. Insta-kill. G2 have got one, got out. I wonder how, I wonder why. Exile were too slow for the top lane dive. Well played by G2.
I've been nothing but impressed with Jankos so far this game. You know, a lot of people talked about how, oh, he's just pressing R on the Karthus, he's not doing that much, but this game he's really showing his understanding of his win conditions and the map.
I agree, he pressed R and ran under tower. It was nicely done by Jankos, but no, I take a little bit of a joke. The one thing that actually stands out to me is it feels like every single decision that Jankos has made has paid off. You know, he was present in the bot lane, he got a flash top, he's repeated for a beautiful first blood, and it's difficult to fault his decision making.
Yeah, I love the way he is investing his time and when he's setting up his vision. Just look at the mini-map as well. He'd set up all these control wards towards the top side of the map. You've even got Akali's just behind the red buff too. That's 3 control wards, all to allow Wunder to push freely and set up for that dive. And there was like a multifaceted step process, right? They planned this, they executed upon it cleanly, and also they know that in the 2 versus 2, Jeskla and KaSing aren't going to be able to do it. Just look at how Jeskla immediately gets forced out. And XL couldn't successfully punish the lack of flashes on the side of G2. And this is why they get so much praise, because even though individually they are very strong, they're also not dumb players.
Yeah.
And they cover all their weaknesses, they know where they can get attacked, and they compensate for it. And even though XL have had windows, they've not been able to capitalize on them.
None whatsoever, and that's why XL are 1,000 gold down. But as you said a little bit earlier, that G2's team comp really wants to accelerate through this early and mid game. Look at the tower plating starting to fall in the bottom lane as PerkZ and Mickey are gaining control. And if I look back to some of the stats from the week 1 performance of G2 Esports, their average game time was 25 minutes. Their average gold lead was 2,600 gold behind just Misfits. And they spent 52% of their game time with a major lead. That's when you look at the total gold in the game, and most of it was in G2's coffers. And it's just very, very good play. And once again, 1,600 up, you got CS advantage in the top lane, CS advantage in the mid lane, tower plating, and a minute advantage for PerkZ in the bottom lane. Mickey's going to flash forward, get the flash out of Jeskla. I think he's going to be happy with that one. Trading a support for an AD's flash. And while that was going on, KaSing and Caedrel, they sniffed at Dragon, but that feels risky, considering the early damage that the Draven already has.
Now look at where Wunder is on the minimap. He's moved down towards the mid lane. He was just checking out what camps were alive in the top side of Excel's jungle, and he was prepared for a potential Dragon fight. He didn't want to have to TP in, and he knew that Expect didn't have teleport either. G2 always looking for opportunities as a team, moving around the map, and while this early game hasn't been as snowbally in terms of kills compared to week 1, they're definitely doing well in terms of their laning, especially Caps in that 1v1 against Exile.
Yeah, it's also really cool to see, by the way, that he's earned himself a 450 gold bounty, because bounty is not only tied to kill score, but it's also the amount of gold earned versus your opponent. So due to the fact that he's got a 20 CS advantage, and that's why Caps is already worth a lot more. Exile grabbed their first objective of the game. See Infernal Drake as some small golf claps go around here in Berlin. And Jankos finds himself attack. He presses R once more. Undertow comes out. Caedrel jumps in for the fight. Flash over the wall from Jankos, as well as Exile's ultimate. So a lot committed to save the bottom lane, and I think G2 are probably going to be very happy with that.
They're quite content with this. Jeskla loses his heal, KaSing loses the cleanse, and all it costs Jankos is his flash and ultimate, whereas Exile's is gone, Caedrel's ultimate is gone, Jeskka's ultimate is gone, and now G2, they can go straight back onto the aggressive.
Oh, I'm waiting for the Whirling Death. I'm waiting for it.
He doesn't have the mana,
man, that's why I'm waiting. I'm going to keep waiting. PerkZ needs to push down this tower. But now Jankos obviously waiting around potentially for a counter gank or looking for some sort of kill opportunity. And it's not going to present itself just yet. G2 Esports very happy with a 2,000 gold lead. Look, big items already picked up. Haunting Guys for Wunder, sitting on a lot of gold. Gunblade already completed by Caps. Vedius, we're 12 minutes in. We've not even seen Caps play League of Legends yet.
Well, he's been farming pretty well, and the thing about Akali is her biggest spike is when she gets this Gunblade, so I think Caps isn't too unhappy. A slow early laning phase is pretty good for most Akali players. To me, what's more compelling in the itemization is Wunder picking himself up the Haunting Guys.
I know, I said that, buddy.
Sorry, I missed that bit. I only heard the Akali bit. The Liandry's Torment is what he's working towards, which means that I was very wrong. He's not going full tank, which is again what he told me he would do in the event that he did play. So he's just been lying to me. But it also means that he's going much more towards, I need to be able to sit in a side lane, push out these tanks that try to come at me, and then they might even look to try and play a 1-3-1 with Caps on one side lane, Sejuani on the other. But again, remember that with this composition, it's very much about the mid-game. About 20 to 25 minutes is where they want to be really trying to snowball this game.
Okay, well, they've got all the tools available. You know, big item spikes already coming in. Bloodthirster picked up for PerkZ. Liandry's Torment completed for Wunder. Gunblade, as you've already mentioned, Vedius. And with the next Drake being Infernal coming up in around 3 and a bit, maybe 4-ish minutes, there's going to be some options. Now, to be fair, Exile have also picked up their first few items for Expect, for Exile, Jeskla getting very close to that Stormrazor. And it really feels like Exile's strategy has been to sort of focus on this Dragon. Let's see whether or not Exile can get away. The Taunt will not find a target. Flash is available to him. Level 10 versus level 10. Very good CC onto Caps. And Caedrel's not going to follow further, so Exile is able to walk away using just the spells within his kits.
So I'm a little surprised that G2 would go for that. They knew exactly where Caedrel was in the river. There's no Drake up. And if they forced him back just as Drake was spawning, then it makes sense. But I don't feel like they get much out of that. Fortunately, Exile will TP back into the mid lane, and now they actually have priority over the river. So it looks like G2 are making their way towards bot.
Look at that river. Jankos and Caps are starting to make their way up into the tri-bush, but Caedrel and Exile are aware of it. The tower's down. There's only one plate left. It will last another 10 seconds. Jeskla gets tagged by the Undertow. Whirling Death in swirling death out. Here comes Exile. He lands down with the grand entrance, and the Paranoid's thrown out. Jeskla's taken out by Caps on the backside of the fight, but Wunder completes the teleport. He's using that Leandries to burn and poke and prod down Exile, but it's all on Caedrel. He's got the double kill. Off screen, completes the triple kill. Exile gets the fourth of the fight, and G2 Esports are at risk of being aced. Roar of the Slayer is just short, and Jankos walks away screaming, how did that happen?
What looked like a huge team fight that was going to go in favor of G2 ended up backfiring, and Excel find themselves with 4 kills over the 2-0 G2 squad. Let's keep our eyes on how this one starts out from PerkZ. He actually leads this by hitting onto Jeskla, which means that he gets CC'd up, the Black Shield comes out too late, he's forced out of the fight. Now G2 are divided. Caedrel goes on to the Olaf, he kills him first. He then turns back to try and peel for the rest of his team and to help deal with Caps. He is now forced out of the Shroud, he doesn't have enough energy to go for the trade, and with the Fear on top of him, he picks himself up another kill as well. I'm not sure where he got his 3rd kill from, I couldn't quite see it in the replay. While all that was going on, XL was helping kill Wunder down towards the bot side of the map, resulting in XL winning out a big fight.
4 kills to 0, they close the gold gap, they have control of the Herald Pit for now, but there is a challenge coming in. All credit to Excel Esports. They responded to the tower dive, they read G2's play, and they made sure that they turned it around. Now Caedrel, 3-0-1, he's got himself a 500 gold bounty, he picked that up onto Caps as well, and I'm interested to see how he can put pressure onto G2 Esports.
Now think about what this means, because we look back at week 1 and G2 were insanely dominant alongside Misfits. And it is XL that is the first team in the LEC so far to deny G2 that extremely dominant 15-minute mark. It could have been another game where G2 was 2,500, 3,000 gold ahead at the 15-minute mark. But this time, due to a really good fight from XL, they've now started to close the gold gap, but it's still not an easy road to them. G2 still in control, still have the pressure advantage, now they're looking for a fight.
Oh, look at that burst damage! All of a sudden, PerkZ is running for his life. Mickey's on the retreat as well. He was chunked down low. Caedrel's burning by the Ignite, and Caps, no flash, cannot chase. Takes a big chunk of damage, and Wunder is coming in. The Glacial Prison's available to him, but look at the knockup. There's not going to be enough just yet. Caps looking for a dash, spinning that shuriken around. He will be unable to find a target. Glacial Prison, that comes out. Wunder's going to dive into 3, and that's a little bit bold. G2 trying to make something happen. It feels desperate, and it almost costs them Caps' life.
Caps, wow. G2, they're just playing so confidently. To the point at which I would argue it's almost overconfidence, disrespecting XL to the point where they think they can just outplay them, but XL holding their own, they're still at a goal deficit. They don't have as much control over the map as they would like, but remember we said G2's composition is about early to mid game. That's where they want to try and make the plays. That's the bit where they want to snowball. And XL, they're planting their feet in the ground, they're weathering the storm, and so far they're not at a point that they need to be worried that this game is out of their control.
Especially when you look at the items picked up. Duskblade of Drakthar sitting in Caedrel's back pocket. Jeskla's got a lot of gold to spend. Hasn't been back 1,500 as he starts the recall under tower, so that will be a Storm Razor for him. And for XL to be 1,500 gold down, despite picking up the 4 kills, it is still a little concerning, but I'm very impressed with how they have read and responded to G2's decisions. That's why they've got the 4 kills. That's why they were able to pick the right fight at the right time.
Yeah, and I kind of want to reinforce that it's G2 have made mistakes, right? The fact that PerkZ is the initial one to tank the tower shouldn't have been the case. That I don't think they fully respected the amount of globals and teleports that XL had ready to answer that dive. But at the same time, XL's decision making in the moment, the target focus, the fact that they split apart G2 and they were able to find these kills, is huge for a team that many considered to be at the bottom of the barrel. Power rankings put them in like D or E or just towards the bottom. Many expect them to be 8th, 9th, 10th. But if they could take a win or just have a really strong game against this team, it will completely change the perspective.
Absolutely the case. Paranoid's been used by Caedrel. Rift Herald starting out, and here comes Expect! They've already killed Mickey! G2 are obliterated! Excel Esports are here to stay. Get themselves 2 kills, get themselves a Rift Herald, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a game on our hands.
And this is what we talked about, QuickShot. Remember, that against this much dive, Draven is not that strong. In an enclosed space like that entrance towards the Baron pit, Exile immediately capitalized. KaSing with a fantastic engage, the Caedrel follow-up, the Exile follow-up, all of that kind of CC and area of effect clumped into one location means that G2 had no answers, and now that gold gap is only 300.
Oh, what a amazing start to this game. Here will be a replay. Remember, G2 started the Herald, and Exile found their opportunity.
And look, you can see that G2 tried to retreat, but this fantastic flank coming in from Expect gets a 3-man knockup, 2-man rather, into the chain CC from the rest of the team. Means that they find 2 very quick kills, a lot of summoner spells were burnt. Just fantastic execution from Exile, and they're finding these fights over and over and over again, and they just continue to impress.
We're 20 minutes into the game. It is a 600 gold advantage for the British boys of Exile. Correction, for G2 against the British boys of Exile. That is, of course, because the Town First Blood has just been picked up. G2 have got a gold lead. Now, Exile are still behind, but they are winning the team fights. Vedius, let's talk scaling, let's talk mid-game. I know you've mentioned G2 wanted to ideally be ahead and wanted to take over around this time, but considering Exile have got this death ball and this team fight working for them, do they just keep stalling, wait for some fights around Baron?
I think Exile are fine to just keep stalling. They don't need to force anything right now. PerkZ is still very strong on the Draven. The Akali with the Gunblade is still a big threat. Most of Exile is still relatively squishy, even though they have a lot of HP. Look, no defenses have been built up for Exile just yet. You only have that magic resist built up for Expect, and this is a very squishy Nocturne, so Exile need to be cautious, need to be careful, and they haven't really been able to approach any of these towers yet, so they need to still play on the back foot, react to the plays that G2 are trying to make rather than force plays yourself. And this will also be a big indication of how much growth Caedrel has been able to show over the last week, because remember, he was very itchy on that trigger finger last week.
Yeah, he really was. His KaSing game was definitely more improvement, and Caedrel is able to just blow up.
Speak of the devil.
Mickey, he's got his hands on that Duskblade. He's 5-0-2, 100% kill participation. But we always knew that if Exile were to excel on this stage, Caedrel would definitely be one of the important factors. He throws down the Rift Herald, and Vedius, we talked about how Exile wanted to unlock towers. With the help of Rift Herald, they get themselves one, and it's going to start taking just a little bit more, and you can see Mickey just getting obliterated.
Good patience there as well. I like the wards, just that cheeky ward, just by where PerkZ is right now. That's what spotted him out. And Mickey, even though he had the flash, this is what's awesome about Duskblade Nocturne. This is my kind of Nocturne, you know, the one-shot power that you can have against squishy targets. Very, very lethal. And so Mickey didn't even bother flashing. He knew his life was forfeit, especially when he's only sitting on Moby Boots. And let's go back to what you talked about, QuickShot. If PerkZ can have a dominant performance on this Draven with Mickey, he solidifies himself as a strong bot laner in Europe. Now, they lost their flashes early, I think due to overconfidence. And while they didn't lose the 2 versus 2, it is these 2 members that are getting caught out in these fights. It is these 2 that are losing their life and unable to position on what are very difficult to play champions. So it's up to you how critical you want to be of PerkZ. However, Exile are doing a great job of punishing the weaknesses of his champion and making his life extremely difficult.
Well, it's a difficult question to answer, and it's one that will be discussed, I'm sure, at length. Because G2 Esports, they played the Sejuani top, they played the Draven bot, and Exile have got more of a, let's say, traditional or more expected team composition.
For sure.
So they get their second Drake, that's the mountain secured. Again, they're still behind in gold. They've got themselves 2 towers, they've got all the damage they need between Caedrel and Jeskla, and don't forget, that 9.1 AP Galio, he hits like a truck. We saw some of that burst damage last week in the LEC. And Excel Esports are just looking for another skirmish or team fight to break down G2.
Yeah, Exile just going to buy their time a little bit more, but you are right, QuickShot. It'll come down to a big team fight for them, probably around the Baron area, which, funnily enough, G2 are setting up for right now. They don't have priority on mid, but they already got that vision in a little bit earlier, and they have the Akali pushing out the top lane. And given that they still have that top tier 1 tower, means that it's a little easier for them to get this vision around the Baron area. And Exile, after going back to base, spending some of their gold, you can see second item now being completed for Jeskla, the Righteous Glory done for Expect, which means that engage tool is that bit stronger now for Exile. 600 is the gold difference, 2-7 in the kill score. Many expected G2 to just come in and stomp Exile, but again, they are surprising, and it'll come down to this next big fight as to how this game will swing.
Oh, it's terrifying. Whoever gets a good team fight could set up for Baron, and that could just be the coffin being nailed shut in favor of one team or another. Look, XL Esports challenging the vision that G2 had already established. There's a numbers advantage for XL, and Exile was moving down to try and catch and meet Wunder. Instead, he realizes some of the threat on Baron. And just keep your eyes on this mini-map. The Baron dance appears to have commenced. And let's see who's going to get an advantage. Third town picked up. XL, for the first time in 24 minutes, has the gold lead.
Yes, they do. Caps being forced to retreat. He was just sitting in that brush. He was trying to look for a pick onto Expect, but then realizes the whole XL roster is there, so he's forced to disengage. And G2 still doing a good job of maintaining vision. You'll see how it's really difficult for XL to get deep vision in. More often than not, they just reclaim control of the Baron area, and then they're immediately forced back out again. It's, again, because they're showing respect to the mid-game strength of this composition from G2. They're not being overzealous, they're relying on the scaling of their comp, and they're being patient. They're not falling into the trap of trying to fight this stacked G2 roster.
At the beginning of the show today on Ready Check, we asked who is the super team of EU? Is it G2 Esports or Misfits? The fans voted, and they said it was G2 Esports.
It's Excel. It's confirmed.
And XL are on the verge of taking them down in the first game. I have a question for you, though.
Yes.
If the fans earlier today called G2 Esports the super team,
Yep.
which team would you accredit the title of super villain?
What you do?
And G2 have owned that themselves. They've branded themselves as the villains of the league. They've stolen the Prince of Europe in caps from Fnatic, put him in this position where he's on this Akali, and they moved their front man, the face of G2 Esports, PerkZ, down to the bottom lane. And now look at this. PerkZ playing Draven, Wunder playing Sejuani. Whether you believe this is good, exploratory, brave, disrespectful, that's a matter of perspective for you to decide. But we need to see whether or not it will be enough to come back against Excel Esports, who are ganging up on Caps, the most recent import. Caps will be taken down in just a matter of time. Starts to get chased. The flash comes out. Caps running for his life. He dashes over the wall. Caps, I'm so sorry for doubting you. Uses everything to escape and does so ever so beautifully.
Really good use of the ultimate there from Caps to find a stun onto both Caedrel and KaSing, meaning he could buy enough time to get away from the charm from KaSing's Rakan and then get over the wall with all of his mobility skills. Good stuff there. Did cost him his flash. He almost lost his life. And perhaps next time he won't be so lucky, but unfortunately for G2, they couldn't get anything off the back of that. They came close to taking down the mid tower, but Exile, they had enough wave clear, they bought enough time, and so in the end, nothing really lost or gained either side.
No, and at 26.5 minutes, XL Esports have already survived longer than the average win time of G2's first games in the split. The game is still dead even as far as gold is concerned, but XL have the tower advantage, the dragon advantage, arguably the team fight advantage, but do they have the capability to execute it well enough to actually win the mid to late game?
That's for sure. It's going to be one of the big question marks. And you know, I spoke to KaSing earlier on, and he told me that last week it was just a bit of a communication breakdown. They believe they should have won that game versus Splice, and they were in a good position to do it, but the comms just weren't on point, and they ended up falling apart. But KaSing is the guy that's leading this team. He is so vocal, he's very communicative. He kind of came out when this roster was announced as the captain, and so your eyes fall on him as another engage begins.
Oh, Caedrel already chunks up 50% of Mickey's HP. Mickey's flash is already blown, and he's already dead. It feels so bad. Do you know how many professional Morganas I've seen killed that quickly? It's just not even fair anymore.
It's not fun. He doesn't have the Zhonya's Hourglass yet. Instead, he's decided to go for the Mykix. Now, Exile still posturing around the Baron in the event that G2 tried to rush it when this Drake is going down, but that's a third Drake in favor of Exile. They picked up a second Infernal, and the underdogs have come to challenge the supervillains of G2.
All right, here's a replay of Mickey just getting picked on.
Ah, the classic. He got too far away from his warding buddy. The flash comes out. Caedrel doesn't actually overcommit. He actually starts to turn away, and then he realizes, ooh, Mickey took a bad path. Rather than going towards the Raptors, he goes towards his team, which means they expect him once again get another collapse, and he finds himself a kill.
And I think it's so important to note that the double Infernal Drakes is going to give an additional 17% attack damage and ability power to the XL Esports roster. With the damages of Nocturne, Galio, and Xayah, they are absolutely going to love that. Now, PerkZ and Jankos, they started Baron as a two-man, and the 1-3-1 had been initiated by G2 to a degree. Well, it looks like they're going to take this mid tower.
Looks like Wunder won't be forced off. He'll clear that one out. G2 doing a great job of maintaining this gold lead. You can see Caps sitting on 300 CS just under 29 minutes into the game, and you'll also see that 3 members of G2 actually haven't spelt their gold yet. They really should. They really, really should. Because right now, the game is actually very even in terms of items, and if G2 find themselves in a fight, they're going to be in a much more of a disadvantage than they really need to be, because there's items just sitting in the shop waiting for them to be picked up.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at the itemization for PerkZ, Stormraiser, as well as Bloodthirster, and he's got that stopwatch available. On the other side, Jeskla, Rapid Fire Cannon, Stormraiser, BF Sword, and Pickaxe, and they're already onto Baron. Here comes Jankos. Ragnarok is available to him. Teleport can't come down from Wunder, but there's the paranoia. Caedrel's looking for Kamiki. He's already killed him. PerkZ is left unattended and alone. 4 members of G2 have to stop Baron.
Now, they've got the teleport out from Wunder, but they're clumped in the pit. Look at Caps. He's going to be the deciding factor in this upcoming fight.
Caps has to do so much work. Wunder, I'm looking for the Glacial Prison. Hasn't been thrown down yet. The knockup is already going to take down Jankos. There's no more smite inside the fight. Caedrel and KaSing are going low, and Caps is running away. Decimating Smash comes down, but there's not a follow-up. Wunder's hunting Caedrel, trying to get the shutdown gold. Caedrel is worth so much money, but look at the burst damage. Caps isn't done yet. He's got 1. He's got 2. He's gonna get taken down before he can find Caedrel. Now Caedrel is gonna spell shield up at least some damage from Wunder. Wunder's trying to chase. He's got a 1-on-2. He's looking for a bounty. He wants the burn. Not gonna find it under Caedrel yet. Wunder's not done. Remember that Leandri's Torment is chasing. The Permafrost locks Exile in space. The big boar is trying to kill Exile, and Wunder is not gonna find the kill, but G2 hang on by a thread.
Excel exceed all expectations, but it is still Caps that keeps G2's hopes alive. This man is just unbelievable, finding 2 kills onto the XL member and turning that fight into their favor just goes to show the pedigree that is Caps.
And Vedius, even more unbelievable than Caps' individual play is XL's team play, putting them in a position to take down G2.
All I wanted to do after this replay was talk about how great this team fight was from XL, because note how patient they are. They see Jankos just slightly overcommit, immediately punish. G2 are too split apart for them to really answer, so XL staying as a group of 5. Now again, they turn up towards Caps, they're committing as a 5. They know that they can get this collapse, but then this is where Caps just does Caps things. On the Akali, he's buying time with the W. He sees his target, KaSing. Exile moves away from the rest of his team, and just with so much burst damage, level 16 Akali, he's able to kill the bot lane of XL. This could have been a Baron. This could have been the fight for XL to win the game.
Oh, look at the bounties. Everybody has one. 6 out of 10 players have got gigantic bounties hovering over their heads. Big sacks of gold. That is what Wunder was chasing onto Caedrel. And you know what I love? When you look at this team, when you look at the damage dealt in that last team fight, and when you think about today, this game was meant to be over by now. This game had expectations that G2 Esports were going to style on the new kids on the block. And XL showed that we are EU, we belong in the LEC, and they are putting the best fight that G2 has had yet in 2019.
And props to Caedrel. This guy, he received a lot of criticism on social media last week. I thought he had a solid game. He was definitely...
Last week?
Last week.
For a long time.
I mean, that's true, but the guy, he was too over-aggressive last week, but he's been really refined with where he's been looking for picks. He's been a lot more patient. He's currently the main kill scorer. Like, he's been involved in 10 of the 11 kills, and now XL grouping up, looking for a fight. Here comes the engage.
All right, fight, fight, fight! Expect rolling down the river. This will be the last Elemental Drake in 5 seconds that spawns before Elder Drake becomes a problem. It is 3 Drakes to XL to 1 for G2. Baron is also alive, and both teams seem to have swapped sides. XL Esports have got themselves a 5-man stack. They're diving and engaging onto Wunder, but look at the back line. Jeskla is the focus of Caps. Already gets taunted up and charmed up. Jeskla running for his life. A grand entrance comes down from Exile, and the fight is split up. Exile is trying to keep Caps busy, but XL cannot get any kills. They cannot find a target. Jeskla trying to clear out the walls. Look at their re-engage. Mickey zoning out to the back line. G2 Esports are showing the quality that they bring to the LEC, and they've got another kill. That's a shutdown onto Caedrel. Nearly 1,000 gold to G2 Esports. The third, the fourth. KaSing dodges away the Dark Binding, and G2 Esports reclaim control.
A single mistake is all G2 need to turn the game back in their favor. all 5 members are alive, while XL lose 4. Fantastic team fight from G2 as they look to push into the base of Excel Esports.
I wanted to believe so badly that XL could do it, but the team fight from G2 just pushes them 5,000 gold down. The inhibitor will be taken out. A 2-man Baron is going to be attempted. PerkZ will need to step in with that Bloodthirster, and there's a Mountain Drake available as well.
TP's coming in,
G2
though.
Esports, can this go awry? Exile's got Flash available to him, but no teleport. 5 seconds for Expect, but he's got no TP. PerkZ gets taunted up, the Winds of War chunks him ever so slowly. Now KaSing will feel some of the burst damage. Cleanse and Flash available. Caps chases him. PerkZ forced to flash as well, and Exile, they get away by stopping the Baron, but the map belongs to G2.
Oh, so much just happened in the last few minutes. The bright side for Exile is they stopped that Baron. That's really good for them. It will give them another opportunity to find a good team fight that can allow them to get back into this game. But G2 finding that fight, it all stems from the fact that Exile engaged onto Wunder. This is not the target you want to be starting your fights off. And look at the flank coming in from Caps. Immediately onto Jeskla. Forcing his ultimate out means he's on the retreat. Now Excel are the ones that are divided. G2 have the much better teamfight situation where they can use their stronger skirmishes in these 2v2s, 3v3s, which is much better suited for them. And just, if you want to know how to teamfight with Akali, just watch Caps. This man just continues to impress. He shows why he is a world-class mid laner. And it's so unfortunate for Excel. They picked the wrong target.
It's really disheartening for Exile to see how well they played to now fall this far behind, but you have to appreciate the power of that unstoppable onslaught coming from Sion's ultimate. Now Caedrel goes into the pit. Baron is available. It's stolen! Caedrel, you beauty! Baron secured. Jankos is killed, and Exile want to pick up the game again. They turn their attention to PerkZ. PerkZ unable to find Caedrel. He uses the stopwatch. One more auto, and it is KaSing, ka-ching, taking down PerkZ. Now Caps is being focused. Expect an Exile for Excel Esports, looking to kill the excellent mid laner for G2 Esports. Caps. He's able to escape with his life. 3 kills, and Baron and Exile are not done yet.
Oh, Exile, they make the initial mistake. Let's see if Caps can get out of this one.
Oh, this is going to be very difficult. He's escaped once or twice before, and he'll do it a third time.
The man, the magician, Caps, once again gets out of a dire situation, and you see why Akali is so high priority in the pro players' hands. Now, G2, they take the gamble here. They run the risk of this Baron being stolen from them. They think that Caedrel won't be able to get into the pit, but he has enough vision to go onto Jankos and get it. And then look, G2, they all just leave the pit. Jankos comes back in too late. The damage is enough from Caedrel that he secures the objective, and then they can just go for the cleanup. Caps goes for another flank, but he's too far away from the fight. It ends up being split apart by G2, and now XL. This was the fight they were looking for, but what's the gold, my friend? What is the gold right now?
I'll answer it for you. It's
Answer
61,000 gold to XL Esports, 63.5 to G2. It is touching distance. You can see the individual gold members, gold per member down in the bottom lane. And like gold, yes. XL have Baron buff, and they are trying to pick a fight. You know, Austin Powers might actually be before your time.
No, I remember Austin Powers growing up.
Might be.
But I remember, let's get boogie, baby!
Well, we're having a bit of fun here because XL Esports have definitely shown up. And just as you think they've lost the game with that inhibitor, they secure a great team fight, they get Baron buff, and now they're pushing down these super minions in the mid lane.
And now it's much harder for Caps to try and find a flank. G2 are forced to group up, which is the best case scenario for XL. They've reached the late game, but again, Draven has 4 items still, so he's no slouch. And these late game fights are going to be so tense. Who do you engage upon? Who finds the good collapse? Where does that engage go to win the fight for which team?
All right, look at the mini-map. Top and bottom lane pushing towards G2 Esports, which is why XL do not start the initiation. As we get close to the end of this game, I want to remind you that the fans on Twitter, that StatsBot, that every single shoutcaster and analyst except Romar voted for G2 Esports to win this game. The only man that believed in Magic once was on a team powered by Magic. And XL Esports might be pulling off a Magic performance today. They've got 4 dragons under their belt. They've got Baron Siege empowered minions and 1.5 minutes to Elder. Vedius, my spidey senses tell me that that team fight could determine this game.
Yeah, I said that about the last 2 team fights, QuickShot. I'm not saying that anymore.
But you don't have spidey senses like I do.
Well, the death times at this point in the game are going to be that much higher. So you're right. Depending on who survives, it could be the end. But my eyes fall onto this man in the mid lane, Caps, the guy that was brought into G2 to replace PerkZ. He has been integral to keeping this team alive.
Take a look at his items. Morena, Nomicon, Gunblade, Deathcap, got that QSS as well. That's going to be so important to keep dashing and diving around the team fights. What do we need to look for? Who does XL need to hit or kill first in order to win? That's obviously Caps,
So,
right?
I mean, the thing about Caps is he's like, if he doesn't have a team, it's a lot harder for him to play, right? Because he wants to find a flank. He actually doesn't want to be the focus. He wants to come in like a ninja in towards the end or the middle of the fight. So what XL ideally want is to kill PerkZ. Because as long as he's alive, so many members like Caedrel and Jeskla have to be afraid of how much initial damage he can do. Like, one of those juggling axes with this many items can take half your health.
Yeah.
So if he dies right from the start of the fight, Caps is immediately forced to go into like playmaker mode rather than comfortable teamfight Akali mode. So XL want to kill this AD carry. They want to take away PerkZ. And if they can do that, then the fight is way more likely to go in their favor.
Okay, so eyes will be on PerkZ and whether or not Expect can find him. It feels like the team fights that XL have won has been when Expect Sion has found a initiation on a key target.
That's true, yeah.
Once his ultimate ran short a little bit earlier, G2 Esports were easily able to pick up the fight. Now the Elder Dragon has been started, and XL got a 4,000 gold Baron Grand Power play into the pit. It works! PerkZ does it! He has been awakened! And now in the ensuing team fight, the first kill is secured. Jankos is down, Wunder is down. 5-on-3. XL, they don't get the objective, but they get the kill.
So both junglers failed to land the smite. G2 are the ones to steal away the objective. It is the main man, PerkZ, that ends up stealing it away with the Draven. But remember that because he was behind the Dragon Pit, he wasn't involved in the fight, which means that 2 members of G2 end up dying, and now XL are on the siege.
Look at that chunk of damage from the spinning axe. XL have got a 30-second death timer to play with, and it feels like PerkZ was inspired by the latest cinematic. He saw a 0-0-0 Draven take on a 6-0 Riven, and he was emboldened to go for that Dragon Steel. Was it the Whirling Death that picked up the kill? I didn't quite see the final hit.
That's what I thought ended up
called
securing.
Whirling Death.
Oh, I see.
It was indeed.
Oh, so both smites end up coming down, but it is the ultimate from Draven that ends up securing it. And then you can see here that Jankos, he used his flash earlier in the fight to secure it. Wunder didn't have his flash available, and PerkZ just wasn't in a position to assist. So now the Barons respawned. Elder will last, I think it lasts about 2.5 minutes. So there's only going to be about 1.5 minutes, 1 minute left on it for G2. Ideally, in a perfect world, they'll find a fight before it runs out. But XL are just going to wait. They're going to wait. And I don't think G2 is in a position to really force the Baron to then ask XL to come and fight them. So I don't think this Elder Dragon is going to be a huge amount of value for G2. But obviously the best case scenario is that they actually took it away from XL, who's always looking for these big team fights.
Okay, and one more big team fight could seal the deal. Ladies and gentlemen,
What about the last 3 team fights?
it is time for a quick stat. At 42 minutes and 10 seconds, this is the longest game of the 2019 season in Europe, and it is XL taking it against G2. The Elder Dragon wasn't really a team fight, it was more of a steal. That did not deserve a clap. I thank you for it, but seriously not worth.
Don't indulge him, ladies and gentlemen.
It just encourages me to do it even more.
Ooh, Cap's capped.
Is he in trouble? Ooh. Manages to escape, manages to pop the Banshee's Veil from Exile as well. Caedrel, 8-1-6, involved in 14 of his team's 16 kills. He needs to get a priority target with that ultimate. Maybe he can get Exile to the backline as well.
Minimap, QuickShot, look at the minimap. You can see pushing lane for XL on the bot side. They now have it pushing in their favor in the top, but G2, they just want to run it down mid. They want to take this inhibitor. Can XL find the engage? Oh, here comes Expect with the flank.
Oh man, he's got to curve the corner. There we go. Here comes Expect, all right, body blocked by Jankos. The team fight is split. This could be bad for XL. Caps is already split away from the fight, and Jankos is going very, very low. Caedrel is chasing it. Now Jeskla takes a big chunk of damage. Exile is killed by PerkZ, but Jankos is taken down by Caedrel. Caps is running amok. There's already a kill for KaSing. Now Caps has found one, he's found two. He's turning. Caedrel manages to kill Mickey. Everybody's dying! But it's Caps and Wunder. They may be able to finish this one out. Caedrel is going to get popped, blown up. This should be the game. Expect is starting to back away. It's up to Caps and Wunder to push through Expect. Expect, the man that started the fight, the man that might be standing when the fight is ended. It is all on Caps. The big roster move that made G2 Esports the super team. And now Zombie Science going to try, kill the wave. Death timers are huge.
Oh, but look, 2 members of G2 are still alive. Can't expect get anything if he kills Caps.
Oh, not
he's
just
able to do
yet.
it.
Fair 15 seconds for KaSing, 17 for Exile. Wunder and Caps start to chunk down the Nexus turrets. That's a big burst of damage. The minions start pouring through. Nexus turret number 2 is the focus. There will just be respawning members of Excel to watch the Nexus crumble.
KaSing.
It was a big fight.
KaSing.
It's not done just yet.
No.
Take a look at the push. Excel Esports, they need to stop the Nexus. They cannot do it. And G2 are superior.
What a fantastic game from Excel. But Caps comes up clutch. The most tense game of the split so far. An extremely exciting back and forth. Exile must be devastated. That game was so close for them. But they just couldn't quite. In the final team fight, again, it came down to target selection. The divers of Caedrel and Expect went on to the Jankos, and he wasn't the target they needed to kill.
I absolutely love seeing PerkZ and Expect hugging one another. Of course, Mickey and KaSing, the sportsmanship on stage. I was not ready for that game. I was not prepared to see what Exile could bring. But ladies and gentlemen, for an organization to play their 3rd ever game on a stage of this size against a team of G2's caliber, you have to give credit to Excel Esports. I also want to add the caveat that G2 played a Sejuani top and a Draven bot for a mid laner, playing his 3rd ever bot lane game and his only 2nd ever AD carry in that position. There's going to be a lot of discussion around what it means, but it was entertaining as hell and very fun to watch.
Man, do you know when you're debating whether or not it's smart to make an investment like, hey, should I eat this chocolate cake now or should I go to the gym? You know, like that was the decision when picking up Caps, because it's like, hey, he's a great player and he's shown a lot of great stuff, but should I eat this chocolate cake now? Should I do it? And Carlos made the decision, you know what? I do want this chocolate cake. I want to eat it now because I think in the long run, it'll actually do me more favors than it'll hurt. That was the best chocolate cake I think Carlos has ever
Vedius,
seen.
I sincerely hope that Caps and Jankos can hear this analogy, because Caps is setting up for an interview with Jankos very, very shortly. Caps is the chocolate cake of G2 Esports, according to Vedius. I can see Jankos very confused. He's looking over. Ladies and gentlemen at home, I need to ask you, who is your Kia player of the game? I have 3 options for you to choose.
It's Caps, Caps, and Caps. Those are
Starting with Wunder, PerkZ, and or Caps. It is up to you to decide. Wunder, Caps, or PerkZ. Who is your Kia player of the game? Head over to @LOL Esports and on Twitter and vote. And I tell you
This is
what,
one of those votes that I genuinely believe should be like 90%. That's what I think will happen.
well, I guess you've already coerced the viewers to believe that way.
Chocolate cake, guys. Get in on that chocolate cake.
I know I got very excited in that game, and it's just because I
did too,
wasn't
man.
expecting Excel
Oh, yeah.
to deliver that level of performance. So kudos to them. But at the end of the day, the EU super team that you guys voted for were victorious. And for more, we're standing by with Jankos' G2 Esports chocolate cake in the mid lane. Caps.
You're both the worst for the chocolate cake reference. I want you to know that now. But luckily, I'm joined now by Caps. And Caps, I don't know how to feel after that game, man. I'm gonna be honest. So why don't you tell me how you feel? What did you think of the team's performance today?
Well, I mean, I'm actually not even sure. Like, I don't even know what happened this game. It was a bit of a crazy game. We showed a bit of our late game. Obviously, Wunder was saying that we wanted to win in 45 minutes, right? So we were trying to like keep it alive, right? The dream. So that's us from behind, I guess.
Well, I appreciate you single-handedly ruining Euphoria bets. But, I mean, an absolutely fantastic individual performance. I feel like you're a one-man case study for why Akali should be nerfed. Were you at any point, like, nervous? They were winning these team fights. They were pulling ahead. Were you guys able to keep it calm and collected, or were you guys kind of freaking out that you might lose your first game on stage?
So, I mean, the early game felt pretty good, actually. Like, the first couple of, first 10 minutes or something. I got pretty safely to, Gunblade, and I thought that's when we were gonna, start forcing and getting leads. But then it kind of went wrong. We didn't really realize how we should deal with, the whole Rakan ult with Galio ult and then Nocturne ult, because I couldn't really fight when I was Nocturne ulted. And meanwhile, they were obviously going on our backline and killing them. So we started to make up plans. We tried out different things. A lot of things didn't really work, so that's why it went really late. But then we finally found a way to beat it, and then we just beat it, right?
In the end, you pulled out a couple fights. Obviously, incredibly clutch individual plays from yourself. When you look at kind of the rest of the season, are you feeling a little more nervous about the games to come, or after winning a game like this, do you just feel unstoppable?
Well, I mean, obviously we're not unstoppable. I think, I mean, there was a lot of flaws, right, in the game. But we learned a lot from it, and I think that's the really important thing. When we fell behind, we didn't just keep doing the same thing and dying. We tried new things. Some of them didn't work, but we learned, right? And that's really what's really important, because now next time we play against this, it hopefully won't go as bad early game, and then we should have a more clean game.
All right, one final question. Wunder bet the perfect first half of the split, 9-0 in the first half. Is the dream alive? Are you still feeling confident?
I think so, yeah. I think we had a really good week 1 showing. I think so far it's not been the best week 2, but I believe we can win every game basically, you know. So yeah.
All right, well, good luck. Congrats again on winning. Congrats on probably getting Akali nerfed. Thank you for that. Over to the analyst desk now to further break that game down.
Thank you very much. You know, I have analysts here, but just as fans, that was awesome to watch. That was one of the most entertaining games we've had so far. It was so incredibly back and forth. It was so sick.
Oh, you got up on the table at one point when we were celebrating it. It was absolutely crazy to watch.
Fantastic, and also just fantastic. We'll talk about the nuances in just a second, actually, right now, because it went so all over the place. And at the beginning of the game, Excel came in very prepared and very active, trying to make plays and trying to put G2 on the back foot, even when they were pushed against their tower.
And it felt like everything really opened up for Excel when Caedrel was the big benefactor of just a bot lane gank gone wrong. I believe he picks up a triple kill in this exchange, and at that point, the assassination potential and the pressure that Caedrel can place in any team fight is massive.
I think the big thing about the fight as well is not only did G2 make mistakes, Exile are incredibly well coordinated in the fight as well. They know who they should be targeting. You can see here, they split off Caps from the bottom side of it, and then they have this huge wombo combo. So it means even if Caps wants to get on the back side of the fight, he's already a couple of men down.
And what I loved in that interview is Caps kind of talking about this idea that they didn't really know how to deal with the composition that Excel had created in the mid game. And you kind of felt like you were watching a team figure out a Rubik's Cube until they recognized when to break it. And it felt like late game, they just started hiding their pieces, waited for the Nocturne to go in, and then as soon as the darkness or the paranoia had gone off, then suddenly G2 came out of the woodwork and started tearing Excel apart.
Yeah, step by step you saw G2 getting back in the game, but then they were completely out again. But one thing that was a constant for G2, and I think we're going to be saying this a lot throughout the split, is that Caps is a monster. I think the first thing we saw of that was when he had a miraculous escape, when he was being cornered by 3 members of Excel. We're going to see that right here.
The thing about this is if Caps dies here, it's balanced for Excel. Like, they are in such a good position to come down, get vision control, bring Jeskla across, and so they expend so many resources trying to catch him, and Caps just like, nope, 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 I'm outie.
Yeah, and at that point, G2 didn't really capitalize, but it's just going to happen over and over again, and he is going to make good. He's going to get kills in situations like this where actually he should have been dead before, and he gets a double kill even.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that there are certain players in League of Legends, names like Faker, names like Uzi, names like Rookie, who because they are so good, they are just entitled to miracles. Caps is one of those guys now. He will simply win you a game that is unwinnable because he is that damn good.
I actually think we're seeing the next evolution of Caps on G2 as well. Like on Fnatic, there were times when he was a little bit restrained, a little bit hampered. Here, every game I've watched him, he's done something miraculous, and I can't wait to see how he develops throughout this split, because if he keeps doing that, I'm on board.
Yeah, absolutely. We were on the hype train already, and it's only going to keep going. But that wasn't the story of the game. Yes, Caps was doing well, but Excel was also doing well. And we got into a phase of this game where there were a lot of fights, a lot of scruffy fights, where Excel got the upper hand in a lot of those instances.
The thing about Excel was they had this great wombo combo, and they just enacted it perfectly. Now, this fight isn't the best example because they get a little bit get too split by it. G2 were able to catch them off pretty well, but in every fight up until this point, they'd already caught 2 or 3 players out from G2 before this sort of part of the fight started.
And this is the thing about where G2 really start to shine above the other LEC teams. It feels like when it's a 1v1v1v1, that's when that superstar talent from G2 makes the difference. When they're able to break it all down animal style, they just have the better players on the day, and that was really the difference maker here. But like you're saying, huge credit to Excel. No one expected them to be this competitive, and I think kind of strength of schedule has started to maybe change people's mind about where Excel sit in the power rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot to unpack from the side of Excel. Caedrel, who did so well as well. We'll touch on him in just a second. But first, let's conclude this game then, because even in that final fight, it's almost miraculous how G2 end up ending the game off that fight, because it looked like with this flank from Expect against this X team, Excel would be able to do it.
First of all, credit to Jankos.
Yes.
He saw the Sion coming in from the back. Look at me, I'm helping. Olaf walks into the Sion to deny the ultimate and then pops the Ragnarok and takes Caedrel on a spin.
I think the great thing from G2 here is how much they split apart Excel as well. You never really see that true wombo combo with the hero's entrance into the quickness, because G2 have just pulled them all across the map. You know, you have Jankos on one side, you have Caps on the other side, and no one can really combine in the way they want to for Excel. So as you say, it's just G2 being individually better, but also understanding how to break down that composition.
And it's also awesome to see from, you know, G2 development's state is that, yes, they run over teams like they did last week, but this was a really tough game to play for them. And you could say, oh, it's Excel, but I think Excel has now proved that they should be considered one of the better or best teams that is able to go toe-to-toe with a team like G2.
These types of games are my favorite League of Legends to watch, because again, it's almost that mentality of you very rarely get to see a team like critically think and problem solve in a game. Normally games are just massive snowballs where it's just a knock-on effect, and it's like dominoes. Once something triggers, the rest of it triggers and it all falls into place. This was a game where you go back, you watch the VOD, and you can see at different points where G2 were trying to problem solve what to do against Excel and then executing on it.
And on the side of Excel, one last time, Caedrel, he's been having a fantastic week so far. He did great last week as well, and he's such an interesting story to me. We talked about the fact that he gets a fresh start. He gets to start as a jungler in this new configuration of Excel with everything behind him, and for now, he is showing up.
I'm such a big advocate of Caedrel. You saw him on H2K playing mid lane, really struggled, then he left, went into the jungle role, actually got very near the top of solo queue ladder in jungle, and came back to H2K and still struggled to have an impact. Now we see him on a team that works around him, where he can be a little bit more aggressive in the early game. Last week he went 6-0-3 on KaSing. This week he goes 10-2-6 on Nocturne. This guy is one of our junglers to watch in EU.
And then it's also how he's going to team up with Exile in that mid lane. He's a high-impact player, and he's always just needed a jungler to camp his lane. I think Excel actually have a really strong winning formula with their mid-jungle duo.
No, I agree. And I think when you look at profiles of teams, Excel is really that underdog we are watching, that team that could, in their first split, break into that top 6 for sure. They have all the tools. We'll have to see if they are able to close games like this out in the future and how consistent they can be.
If they play like this for the rest of the split, I put them above teams like Splice and Schalke at the moment. Obviously, we haven't seen enough from those teams to really rate them there, but I would say they're 5th, 6th at least.
That would be very exciting for Excel, but to close it out for G2 Esports, well, they haven't dropped the game yet, and the player of the game, you guys voted for him, Caps, 91% of the votes. I don't know what
it was close.
Shocker.
Oh, it was so close. I mean, Caps didn't really do anything special this game.
Is he carrying perks in these games?
He won V10 this game. He just did everything by himself.
Sometimes you just press tab and you just look at the Akali, you're like, I just gotta let myself be carried. This was a valuable lesson for everyone in solo queue. Sometimes you just gotta be carried.
Yeah, fantastic. No, a great game from G2 Esports, and you know, the main storyline coming into this year was, wow, what a gamble, this roster change. I mean, it paid off in week 1. I feel like we can agree that it's gonna work out.
Is it a gamble or is it a love story? Still a better love story than Twilight. Look at this.
Yeah, and if anything, yeah, Perk seems very keen to want to talk to Caps, and interesting. Now, what is also still true is G2's flexibility. Again, here, you guys said some of these drafts, well, this draft in particular, you take some risks here and there, but if you're G2, you can take any risk you can. Do you think, after how this game played out and how difficult it ended up being, they will change their approach?
I think you want to temper it just a little bit. Do you need to flex Sejuani into top lane? Do you need to make that
like I want you to.
Yeah, exactly. You can do it, but when you start having games that are this close, and perhaps the picks play a little bit of a role in that as well, maybe you need to look at playing a little bit more conventionally in your big games, in those big matchups.
Versus, it's funny because now after this game in the big matchups, Exile wasn't particularly a fearsome enemy anymore, but it is going to be for the teams that follow.
I feel like G2 are just like this lion, and you just never really see them get up and take down a gazelle. Like they're just kind of, they're terrifying and they're still the king of the jungle, but they're just kind of sitting there and they feel really relaxed. Like this game, it still didn't feel like G2 were really breaking a sweat, despite how well Excel played it.
Yeah, absolutely true. Well, fantastic job from G2, 3-0 already. What a start from G2 Esports. Now, after the break, we'll see